hold on, a long one, and I'm going to link in the captions to a rather dry little piece from Philosophy Now that talks about a concept called preference satisfaction and happiness. Basically, it is good for people. People are happy and satisfied when their preferences are fulfilled. Now, the problem with that is there was a group of women, I can't remember where, I've got it upstairs, but I haven't got the time at the minute to go ploughing through the literature, in Asia, whose lives basically consisted of being human donkeys. And when they were interviewed about what their preferences were, because they didn't know any different, they didn't really want anything different because that was the limit of their knowledge and understanding. And the authors of the paper said, which just goes to show that preference satisfaction doesn't lead to the human good, because when these women were offered, or kind of, better choices by the people, they admitted they were happier. And the problem with that, I always reckoned, was that that's great and they're right, but the choices that they were offered were ones that Western white women deemed to be good ones, and therefore what preferences they had and whether they were satisfied would depend on the available options available to them. And this is a problem with any woman at all across the world, and men too, in very extreme religious environments where their religious faith believes them or demands them to live a life that is extreme. And her life is, she knows of other preferences. She does know them because obviously she has lived in the world, but her personal belief. Now, I think that she probably is actually, to her rights, happy. I think she loves her husband. I think she loves her children. And I think that this was probably the life that her and her husband, when they were very first married, and, I was like it, with my first husband, who was horribly abusive. And I really didn't want to be married to him quite quickly after. I didn't want to be married to him before I married him. But, it was that, but I felt I had no choice. And then you're caught by obligation. But when you're young and desperately in love, we're going to have a farm and children. It's going to be wonderful. If you asked her and millions of women across the world what they would change, if they could change anything, I don't think many of them would ask to change the thing. I think that they would ask for it to be easier. And I think that's probably the problem here, is that we are looking from our perspective. She is looking from hers. We can see why she's knackered, and from our perspective, it's horrible. And it is. I mean, I'm not suggesting that what she's doing is necessarily great, but I'm just trying to kind of, get the idea that she is being exhausted and worn out and completely knackered by trying to live up to an ideal that does not become achievable unless you half kill yourself if you're a woman. Women who are not in that state, have not been indoctrinated, can see that it is what they are doing that is half killing them. But women in that state don't really understand that it's the thing that they desire that is killing them. So they just want it to be easier. I'll link to the article and you can read it because it's a bit dry, but I do think that when we're looking at things like this, and it does go for women everywhere, it's something that has to come into play.